Alexis, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Wait, I'm so excited to be back too.
I'm excited to have you back because I feel like the last time that you came on, I think it was maybe like 3 years ago. I think it was 2022,
Yeah,
either 2021 or 2022.
I think it was.
And I think we're both living like entirely different lives than we were at that time.
Ain't that the truth?
I think we did like a Zoom
We did Zoom. We did Zoom last time.
because the show was audio only. I was
Yeah.
living in LA. You were here in New
Oh
York
my God, what a time.
a lifetime ago.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I'm so shocked because then I moved to LA for a little bit too
Mhm.
after that. And then life changed. And then you moved to my house. And then now we're kind of neighbors.
People don't know that
People
you're
don't know
you're
that.
semi-responsible for me living in New York.
Don't you love that? Yeah, it was great. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted anyone else to live there.
Yeah.
Like truly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate you lending me your apartment for a little while.
No,
So I
I'm just
could-
I'm glad we're all around.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some of your big pivots. Last time that you were here on the show, you were still working at Google. I think you were about to launch the ropes.
Yes, I was. I feel like it was like summertime.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like going into the fall
Yeah.
before you were about to launch the ropes.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about some of the big pivots that you made since then and
Yes.
how different life is for you just a few years later.
Oh my gosh. So I guess 2022 Alexis was in her third year, I guess, like second or third year working. I had just started working at YouTube, leaving Google. Like it's the same company, so it's like the same thing. But I was going from marketing to working with YouTube Shorts, which was the best job ever. I really loved it. I got to be between New York and LA, but I've always been an entrepreneur. I was kind of doing everything. And I feel like that was really good for me in my early 20s of doing everything so I could see what I liked. So then I had the idea to launch the robes when I was sick with COVID over December 2021. And I was just like, there's no robe that really speaks to me on the market. This thing could be completely redesigned. Like, let me just go for it. And so I did. We launched. I learned so much about like running a product-based business, about marketing, about just like really everything in the business world, which was so fun for me. We launched 2 products after that. And I also started business school in August of 2023 at Wharton. And so during that time, I was like very unsure about where the robes would go because we had launched a product and people loved it. But I was at school and I was like, I kind of want to enjoy school. What if I just like continue this? And then my influencer career kind of took off. I got the most deals I've ever gotten. I got a book deal, which was crazy. And the robes, we were picked up to work with Rare Beauty by Selena Gomez, and we were featured on GMA3. So like a year, I guess, after our podcast, all the things I'd been working on sort of came to fruition. And I broke up with my partner of 6 years and moved to a new city. So I was like, you know what? What's going on here? And so I just sort of ran with all that. And my first year of business school, I just worked like a dog, to be honest, kept up with the social life, everything was going super intensely, but super well. And then in the summer of this past year, 2024, I was like, okay, I need to now pivot and decide what to do next because it's unsustainable to have 4 careers at once. What do I really want to do? And so that's what the last year has really been for me, at least the last school year, while also trying to just be a lot more present, like, and enjoy my last year at school.
Yeah. And it's not like you had 4 like low pressure, easy careers. It was like multiple demanding, complex careers happening all at once.
Yeah.
You did recently share that you have kind of taken a break from the robe business.
Oh my God, yeah.
What brought you to that decision? How has it been? Has it been bittersweet to wind it down for a while?
Oh my God. So I think this story will hopefully resonate with other female entrepreneurs and consumer entrepreneurs, particularly in the wake of the tariff situation. But the robe business was going really well. So it was making 6 figures. It was a profitable business. We worked with billion-dollar brands, and I really enjoyed it. However, when I got into the Wharton Startup Accelerator, so only 7 students get accepted to this accelerator, and I was the only student who came in that wasn't using AI and that was making revenue already. So I got there, and these guys were kind of like, you know what, like there's something here, but like let's dig into it. And when they soon like sort of saw that there was multiple revenue streams and sort of what revenue opportunities and what's taking the most time and leading to the most reward. So that's the biggest thing about Wharton that I got there. The reason I think I got into and went to Wharton is because it is a very quant-heavy school. And I am very insecure, or I was very insecure about quant and math and data. And so when I looked at the amount of hours I was spending that would potentially result in me selling X amount of robes, if I was spending that same amount of hours on content, the revenue opportunity is infinite compared to the amount of time you spent on selling a fixed product. And so as much as it was doing well, and I sort of felt this identity tie to having a product-based business because I felt like that legitimized me more, it wasn't the smartest business decision. And I resisted that for the whole accelerator. Like, I was like, I'm not gonna let these old white dudes tell me what to do. They don't know what a lifestyle brand is. All they want me to be is AI. But they were right. And I was like, at the end of the day, it was December, I was completely burnt out, like in the toughest mental spot I've been in for a long time, and completely like just sort of tied to this identity of being a product entrepreneur. And I didn't feel like just being a creator or an entrepreneur or a creator economy expert or anything else I was enough. And that's really what the problem was. And so when I got to the bottom of that, I realized I love my products. I love doing this. But in the current economy, with the impending tariffs after Trump was elected, that was sort of my final straw, because the other option for me was going to be to raise, because we had a clear product that worked, and we had it was obvious that like all I needed was a little bit more money and like ad spend to sort of turn it into the business that I would need it to be. But when we were looking at tariffs and we were looking at the content opportunity, it just didn't make sense to go that route and get investors. And so I was like, you know what, this is tough, but I'm gonna accept that it's time for this to end, and something new is coming about. And luckily my book was coming out in that quarter. And so I got to sort of rest for the first time all my entire business school career, like having weekends back.
Kind of the first time for like your adult life.
For my adult life, absolutely.
Before you went to business school, you were still doing basically full-time content creation while being in corporate.
Yeah, my first day at Google was the first day I like got like Instagram followers. Like I was working the whole time, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about the legitimacy of being a content creator, because this is something that I think about a lot.
Yes.
I think that there's a lot of pushback when it comes to content creation being seen as legitimate, and even a lot of the conversation that we have around content creators, because it is a female-dominated industry. I think that if more men were successful at being influencers, people would not talk about influencers as negatively as they do.
I have two stories I will tell you about this that really encompass it. So first of all, at the end of my first year at Wharton, we had a pitch competition. And I wasn't going to participate in this pitch competition because I was like, I don't really care. I don't need investors. And then one of my professors really encouraged me to do it. So last minute, I decided to sign up. And it turns out two other people doing that pitch competition are male influencers who are also in my class, one of which has 2 million followers and is a fitness creator, and one of which has about 150K and is a travel creator. And both of them had startups that were pre-revenue, just ideas, and they were really excellent ideas for sure. And I show up, I have $1 billion collaboration, I have, Tarte Repair, Random House, I have time at Google, I have this revenue that I've already made from selling my product. And the first question I get from an investor is, why not just be an influencer? Like, why do this too? They didn't ask the male influencers that. And so it's not even just that, like, I feel like they got the opportunity to be an influencer, and that's just a distribution channel for them, and they can be true businessmen after that. I was already a true businesswoman, and it's still like, why don't you just shrink yourself a little bit and stick to selling stuff, other people's stuff on the internet? And so I was like, whoa, like this is some deep-rooted stuff. And I mean, it took me a little bit to become proud of being just an influencer. And I think I went through that while I was at Google and then later YouTube, because I was working with our top creators at YouTube and seeing how people like Mr. Beast were organizing their businesses. And that's when I was like, you know what? The money in this is so real that I do not care what other people think of me. And so when I got to school and people would be a little bit weird about me being an influencer, I didn't really get it. I was like, well, I make more than you. So
The
now
audience
what?
gets it. So.
Yeah. So I mean, exactly.
My brand partners get it.
Exactly. So I was just like, I kind of learned to let that go. But it's not that I don't feel like people still question, my legitimacy all the time. And when the money runs out, then what's really there? You know what I mean? So I think it's like a matter of being confident in your own career. And only this year has that happened when I was forced to make a resume for the first time. And I was like, you know what? I'm really that girl.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The credentials are there.
The credentials are there. I was like, I have to remind myself once in a while.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think about it a lot too with the conversation around relatability and influencers, which is the latest thing that's grinds my gears.
Please.
Again, because I think that the pressure to be relatable is only put on successful women. Nobody looks at a successful man at the top of his game and tells him he needs to be more relatable.
Yeah.
We do that usually for women in this female-dominated industry.
100%. And I think I've watched this play out many times because I've been a consumer of content for a long time, and like I've been on the internet for about 4.5 years now. And so I've seen from the jump, though, my very first hate comments that I got in the beginning were about me needing to humble myself. And that was for me like really hard when you're a 21 or 22-year-old. And I went to Northwestern. Yeah, I worked at Google, but like, had I really accomplished anything, that I truly wanted to do? I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you're building your own adult confidence for the first time, to hear that you should be smaller just because you are already exceptional is a really like hard thing to grapple with. And I've noticed it time and time again, even when I'm at Wharton, surrounded by, the top 1% of earners and these people who come from elite backgrounds. For context, I come from like a very low income, like underprivileged background. And so to be successful and young and around them incites a lot of disdain. And I think doing it in this environment and being able to overcome that and feel a sense of pride in who I am and feel confident in an environment like that, which I didn't feel that way on day one, but I do now at the end of my time there. Now it feels like I can sort of conquer anybody on the internet because I've done it in real life. And I think a lot of the people who've become influencers like during the pandemic have to go through that. But I've recognized I am not relatable. I'm not trying to be relatable, and I have no interest in relating to you. I hope we get along. I hope we have fun. I hope that you guys can like enjoy my content, but I don't make content to make you feel, I guess, better about like necessarily like your exact situation, because no one's lived your exact situation and you have your exact situation, and that's great for you. And I like really have always been inspired by the creators that I follow, or entertained by them at least. And I've never tried to sort of make them more relatable to me. I've always tried to sort of grow and take from them the qualities that I enjoy. And so I do understand, though, being triggered, because that happens when you're insecure. And when you're insecure and you don't self-reflect, of course you're going to be triggered when somebody's doing well. And if you don't take a second and chill out on that, then you're not going to learn the lesson that the universe is begging you to learn from it.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I think sometimes people conflate relatability with likability. Because also sometimes people will say, oh, this person is so relatable about somebody. And I'm like, there's no way that you relate to that person.
No.
You like them.
Yes.
You like their personality. You like what they put in the world. People will be like, Rihanna is so relatable. I'm like, honey,
that's a billionaire.
Rihanna, you don't relate to
You
Rihanna.
don't know
You
that lady.
like Rihanna.
Yeah.
Don't we all? We all like her.
We love her.
You can't relate to her.
Ever.
You don't know her.
Ever. Because you became a pop star at 17,
Right.
and so you get it. No, you don't.
No.
You don't know what that's like. I feel like they're like that is so true, because you can like a lot of people on the internet, but nobody's lived a life as in the same way that you have. And also, the second you become a full-time influencer, you are not relatable. There's no like waking up at 10 a.m. and journaling and going to Pilates and doing a podcast episode and doing all your admin. Like, nobody knows the influencer admin. Nobody knows what it's really like to sort of do this. So I feel like, of course, you're not relatable. And if you're doing it on top of another job, even that's not relatable, because like there's so many other things you could be doing. And so I find it's sort of punishment for being outside of the norm as a woman. And I see this a lot with like, I'm very curious on our generation of feminism, because I feel like we've gotten all of these opportunities at once, and largely we are like punishing women for going after them in a lot of ways. And a lot of times it's women doing that, which is really like disheartening for me. But I do believe like at the end of the day, women are mostly concerned about making sure we all get what we want. But when they see someone get what they want that they didn't allow themselves to have or didn't allow themselves to want, that's when a lot of the disdain comes up and the relatability conversation comes up, because it's like, oh, you're not relatable because I couldn't get that, but you're the one who put yourself in the box to say you couldn't. And that's what I've just seen throughout everybody.
Yeah. And nobody has a fully 100% relatable experience. Even if I think about good friends that I've had, maybe that I went to high school with or that I went to college with, who I love dearly, who now live entirely different lives, I don't necessarily relate to them.
But I want to see the content.
Right. Like, or I still love them and love what they're doing, but nobody is going to be 100% relatable to anybody. And it just, it bugs me that it is a piece of feedback that only women get. It really bugs me.
For sure. I mean, men will never get it. Men never.
They're too busy big broing each other to want one another relatable.
It's insane. If I have guy friends and I listen to them and I'm like, if they see a guy doing better than them, they're like, yeah, respect, bro. Like, it's never a matter of like, oh, he's not cooler anymore because he's too big. It's like, it's just very frustrating. But I get it a lot. I mean, I get the social dynamics of Wharton playing out just because of everything. It's like every day there's something new. I'm not likable and I'm not relatable and I'm not interested in being like either of those things anymore, because I'm much more interested in being happy and being myself.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. Oh my God, being likable. If I just focus on being likable, it goes to the data point. Look at the data. What's the data that's gonna make me likable? If I followed that, I would not be who I am. I would not be myself. I would not have my essence, which is really what makes me great anyway. Like, it would all be gone. So it's like, why would I do that? Like, again, it's literally a trap to keep you small, you know?
Yeah. And I do get curious when women, and Black women in particular, are told to humble themselves. I'm really curious what it is people who say that want them to do with that information. People who say that, what does that mean? What is it that you want that person to do? Do you want them to not show up? Do you want them to not have wins? Do you want them to not share wins? Do you want them to act like every single thing is like something that they don't deserve and to just act undeserving all the time? Yeah. Like, I get curious, what is it that people want?
It's that undeserving thing for me. It's like the projection of the undeservingness. Then for a little bit that bled into my own perception of what I deserved, because I was like, do I not deserve this? And am I even going to allow myself to have this identity of being a smart, beautiful, funny, cool, interesting girl? Like, am I allowed to have everything that comes with that? And I remember on the first day of school, or the first week of school, we had to go through this like long simulation. And at the end of it, we had to give each other leadership feedback. And I had been very forthcoming the first day, being like, I have this insecurity where I don't feel like people think I'm smart enough, and I feel like really insecure about that. And there was this dude who was by all intents and purposes a Wharton finance bro. And he looked at me at the end of that and he was like, I don't know what more proof you need. And I feel like
he ate that.
Right? He ate that. And I was like sitting there like, whoa, you're so right, because I have all the proof I need, but it's because of these voices that are telling me I should be humbling myself, or I should maybe, show if I am going to do well, that I need to be, super grateful for it and say like, oh, I didn't deserve this or whatever. And so I really realized that it was those voices that were keeping me from looking at like the facts that were sitting in front of me. And that was in turn keeping me from executing on things I wanted to do, on taking the next step, or trusting myself to go to the next level. And so whatever these people want me to do, it's impossible. So like all you can really do is sort of look at your own facts and your own perception of what's great. And I mean, I go back to that all the time, where it's like, what more, when I'm feeling insecure, it's like, what more proof do I need? Like, I can do it. So, oh my God.
And all of those things can be true at once. You can have gratitude for something. Because I think gratitude is important to have. You can have gratitude and still feel like you deserve something, or recognize what was earned. And I also think a lot of people may think, if they see particularly a confident woman who is like, hey, I'm in my worth, I know that I deserve this, that automatically means that someone else doesn't. When the truth is like, for the most secure people, you're like, everybody deserves it. I want it for everybody.
Oh my God. Well, that's what I think I realized when I was secure, is that everybody deserves this, because I think I've never naturally felt competitive towards people, because I don't know why, but the world will teach you to be competitive as a woman, And so I realized though, through a series of like your own self-reflection, you kind of realize if a girl's bothering you too much because you want what she has, you have to reflect on that. You don't know, you have to sit, self-reflect, and if she's really bothering you, you got to unfollow her. You got to like take yourself out of that because you know it's you. At the end of the day, I've always known any competition or frustration I felt with someone else is a projection of me not believing I deserve it, because everybody can have everything we want, you know what I mean? Especially because no one actually all wants the same thing.
Right.
Nobody has the same dreams. And I thought for a long time, I'd be like, oh, well, everybody wants 1 million followers on Instagram. So like, I can't want it because there's only like, what, 2 spots? And I'm like, there's only a few spots in the world that's allowed. And it's like, then I got to like YouTube the first day and there was a list of 2,000 people who had over 4 million followers on TikTok and I hadn't heard of any of them. And I was like, oh, there's thousands of people in this world who are doing what I want to do. Not only that, but not everybody wants 1 million followers on Instagram either. And so like you have to remind yourself that whatever you want, it's because it wants you back. It's not because it's like random or anything. But so we can all have what we want. I feel like the competition is never crossed my mind lately, really, which I'm so grateful for because I don't have time for that burden.
Yeah. And I feel like when you're so worried about what other people are doing, that's when you can't be in your lane on your secret sauce.
You can't. And I even realized this with being distracted, like generally, like you cannot focus on yourself and have a happy life and have an intentional life if you are focused on what the random boy on Hinge is doing, what your friend is doing, what your like sister is doing, like any of those big distractions, whether it's like disdain or not, like you can't focus if you're like too worried about what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. I have to learn that lesson every 20 minutes.
Don't we all?
Like,
Don't we all?
It's crazy. Yeah.
I want to go back to talking about burnout because you did mention having experienced some burnout before you decided to like sunset the road business for now. How did you know that you were burned out? Were there any kind of specific things that you were feeling where you were maybe like, okay, this is like next level burnout as opposed to maybe like normal levels of overwhelm that we probably operate at?
Yeah.
And what has helped you start healing from that?
Great question. I feel like burnout is really hard to admit to yourself when you're really going through it because oftentimes it's losing a true happiness and obsession with something that you once were really connected to. So it's hard to admit to yourself because you're calling yourself lazy or inconsistent for a while because you're not showing up the way you did once for something that you really cared about. And so that was hard for me to recognize because for the first semester of my second year, so the time when I was in the Wharton Startup Accelerator and, you know, in my second year of business school and everything's getting a lot of opportunities and stuff, the problem was I had too many opportunities, which was great. But I did not feel happy for months. I didn't feel called to do it. It was a chore every day. Editing everything was a chore every day. I did not want to do anything that I was doing. I was not creatively inspired whatsoever. And it's not because I didn't love those things. It was simply because my nervous system wasn't okay. And so I didn't realize I was burnt out. I really just thought I was lazy and had no structure until I got a business consultant, Michelle Pelizon.
We love Michelle.
We love
Holisticism. I think you put me onto holisticism.
I think so
ago.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Girl, I'm a holisticism stan. She runs my life mentally. And I talked to her and she was like, I was like, yeah, I need like a new structure for my business. And she was like, everything you're telling me, you don't sound well. And I'm going to put you on my burnout protocol. So I wasn't allowed to consume nonfiction stuff for a while, which was so good for me because I was really deep in my self-help podcast, Andrew Huberman bag. And so I couldn't do that for a little bit. And I had to delete and delegate or defer every single task that was in my business. So she made me write everything out that I did on a daily or weekly basis for my business, for school, for content. And I had to delete, delegate, or defer all of it. And so what I learned is that I don't ask for help enough. Why am I doing customer service? Like, why was I doing that when like we were processing all these orders every day but I felt very connected to like wanting to make sure the customer experience was perfect. So like I was deep in doing that. Or why I shouldn't be involved in like, I don't have to be involved in like podcast editing. You know what I mean? And so there was God no. So there's like tons of things that like I needed to let go of from a perfectionist standpoint. And there was also a ton of things that didn't really matter. Like, going back to that data point, what's really driving value in the business? it's not a lot of these other things that I'm spending time on, you know? And it could be these other things. So getting clear and just writing everything out was really helpful. And also, again, taking away that nonfiction or consuming like way too much content. It's bad for you because you're trying to, and I mean, I'm getting excellent business education every day from my literal business education that I'm going to. I don't need to listen to 12 podcasts and books on top of that. I was overwhelmed. So I recognized it because somebody told me, to answer your question, because they were like, ma'am, you're not well. But what I want you to think about is if this is something that genuinely like excited your soul at one point and now you can't pick yourself up to even look at it, there's something there that you have to explore. And a lot of times it is burnout, because I've always known I'm meant to be a content creator. I love like I have a unique skill set for this. It doesn't mean I don't want to do it. It just meant that the systems, I didn't have enough help and I didn't have enough time to do it the way that was most, uniquely beautiful for myself.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Mm-hmm. And for even getting help, that outsider's perspective can be so helpful, because when you're so deep in it, sometimes you just can't even see which direction to go. You can't, it's like so hard to see what's broken when you're always in it.
Exactly. And I think for people who are operating businesses that are, operationally heavy, for me, it was like, I'm looking at numbers, I'm looking at Shopify, I'm looking at our conversion rate. And it's like, I'm not the best at that. Like, that shouldn't be where my energy is. It should have been somewhere else. And I was too afraid to sort of hire for that early on, because I wanted like excess control over my business, and which in turn, burnt me out. But I mean, I do believe that all of that sort of happened for a reason, because I have learned so much about business. Like, I could create a business plan for a product-based business. I could take 2 Collective to $1 million tomorrow if I wanted to, because I know so much about it and I feel so confident in that experience that I did it. I made every mistake I made, especially down to the burnout, because I needed to learn that for the next thing. Because love the road business and I love product so much. There's certainly product in my future. It doesn't have to be right now though. I'm so okay with that. But also in the future, I'm still so passionate about it and I get to have all this knowledge and skill set related to it too. So your mistakes, yes, they suck, girl, in the moment, because you're like looking at a PO, it's like 10K and you're like, oh my God, I can't do this. But I am really grateful that I've learned from so much of it.
Yeah. And it's such a good reminder that you don't have to do everything right now.
No, and I really, Les, that's how I was.
Yes.
Like back I was like, I have to do everything yesterday.
Yes.
And that's because I'm an Aries rising.
You're triple fire, aren't you?
Triple fire, yeah. Sag, stellium. Why am I getting my Saturn return at 26? Apparently Saturn's coming into Aries this.
Oh, it is. Yeah. You'll get it over with.
I'm not excited about it. I was like, I'm going to graduate school. I'm finally going to have some freedom. And now I'm going to have to learn some lessons.
Yeah. You'll be fine, though.
But
you'll be fine.
Yeah. So I feel like I've always been like, I have to do it all right now. Something that's really helped me with that is letting go. Which is so hard. But when I let go of the robes, having like this past semester, I've just felt so much clearer. I felt more creative, like you were talking about with your rebrand. I felt more like able to enjoy my relationships, which is something that I think a lot of people say, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur so I can have flexibility, freedom, and be with the people that I love the most.
Oh,
you're lying,
I have something to tell you.
Exactly.
Bad news for you.
Bad news for you. Unfortunately, that doesn't take place.
Yeah.
And so I was not there for the people I loved. I was sacrificed. I was using my business so that, well, I wasn't using it necessarily, but like it was a great excuse to not show up for people. And it was like a great excuse, to not show up for myself. But like, when people would ask me, what do you really care about? I'm like, my friends, my relationships, like traveling, my family. Like one day I want to be a mom and have a ton of kids. Like these things that I was saying to people weren't adding up with where my hours were. And so that was humiliating. But you learn it. And then it's like, once you let go of the things and you start to see what really matters, then you can start to craft a career around what really matters instead of, doing it all at once. But I'm happy I did it all at once because I like learned. But not for my mental health and my cortisol levels.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure. And it takes a toll on your health. And I also know something that you've talked about and been really open about in your content is like having MS.
Yes.
And also like doing all of this while living with a chronic illness. And I'm sure burnout doesn't help that at all.
MS is a stress-related disease, by all means. And so I think I got it when I was I got it when I was 15, and that was one of the most stressful years of my life because I had skipped a grade, I was applying to colleges, I was like doing the SAT, all of that. And like that year is when my first symptoms arose. So I've kept my MS pretty much under control. But in the summer of last year, and I don't think I've really talked about this publicly, but I was signed up to run this leadership program at Wharton, where for 3 weeks you're basically a TA for the class and you are bringing in the new class of Wharton. And so for 3 weeks, it would be a pretty intense time. And I was really excited about it because my leadership fellows who I had interacted with had been really instrumental to my experience. So I had done all the training and everything like that. And some of my MS symptoms started to crawl back up in summer of last year. And so the question, and that's around when I was working with Michelle and like the burnout was really prevalent. And I got into this accelerator and I was like, I don't know what to do here. And the thing is, your health will always tell you what you have to do. And the first thing I had to give up and prioritize was this program. And like, that was very hard for me because I had to prioritize because of my health, because I hadn't been prioritizing my health in the past. And it reminded me of course, what's important and everything like that. But I don't want to discount how frustrating it is. It's so frustrating to live with an illness. It's so frustrating to not have the same free will everybody else has and to, have to think about it. And I think that's why I hated it so much from my childhood. But at the same time, it's real. And I'm very grateful that I have a meter like that on my health that will tell me, you know what? It's too much right now. And if I hadn't had that, then I wouldn't get to a point where I'm able to prioritize better. And so that's been the greatest lesson of the past few years is like what really matters. And the health always comes first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so important.
Truly.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm very lucky to be in a great place with my MS though,
Good.
but it's taken a while.
That's like the best news.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah. We're living.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also want to talk about the book.
Oh my God.
You just came out with a published journal, which is really exciting. Can you walk us through the process of what made you decide to go the traditional publishing route and then tell us more about the journal?
Oh my God, guys, here's the thing about my early 20s. Again, I was just doing it all, So, okay, I'm going to take you on a tangent.
Yeah.
So when I was in college, I was similar where I was like, I don't know what I really want to do, so I'm going to try everything. And after I got in the Google internship, you could apply for deferred enrollment MBA programs where you would apply as a senior in college. If you got in, you would have 3 to 5 years to do whatever your career you were going to do and then get an MBA. And so I built in a sort of like risk taking ability into my early 20s by applying to and getting into Wharton because I knew between 3 and 5 years later, like I could just go to Wharton. And even if I completely failed in my early career, I could go and I could, change the course of my career if I wanted to. Will I change the course of my career? I don't know. We'll find out in the next 3 weeks. But basically, I said yes to a lot. I pivoted a lot in the beginning. And so it was never on my list, though, to write a journal or to write a book. I started my podcast, Too Smart for This, and one of my listeners was a book agent, and she heard me mention something about maybe creating a journal, but I looked into the margins and self-doing it didn't really make sense for me, so I went with the robes instead. And she was like, well, I'm a publisher. Maybe we could do this together. And it was a very laissez-faire thing for me where I was like, you know what? Sure, girl. You know what? Hell yeah. I'll send you a book proposal. And it turned out to really resonate, especially. And I think the reason the Too Smart for This journal really resonates with people is because you know deep down that you are better than your circumstances a lot of the time. And it can be very difficult to pinpoint what exactly the quote is or the book is or the lifestyle changes that you need to change to get to your external reality to reflect how you see yourself. And until you open that door, most of the time, you're still going to be upset and looking for it outside of yourself. And what I really wanted people to experience with this journal is the recognition that it's actually all within you. And if you sit down and talk about it with yourself, and if you self-reflect, then you're not losing the millions of dollars that you could be making if you actually believed in yourself. And you're not losing, that valuable time with your friends that is actually more important to you than, whatever else you're focusing on. And so I felt like since it was so necessary for especially like, women in the publishing world who are probably feeling a similar way, it just sort of made total sense, and I'm really happy with how it all aligned in a very serendipitous way.
Mm-hmm.
The traditional publishing route happened to be more helpful for me than the self-publishing route because it wasn't my main career. It was more so something that was supplementing the audience that I already have.
Yeah. Which makes total sense.
It was great.
Yeah. And you've also talked a lot about journaling and how journaling has been a really helpful tool. And so it's great that you're able to share that with other people.
Truly, because people, I get to Wharton, I'm around a lot of people who are a little older than me. The average class age is 28 and I'm 26. And you can tell who's never journaled or had a self-reflective moment in their life because it comes out in their insecurities. When you are someone who has self-reflected and journaled, or not even just journaled, but sat with themselves, which is sort of what the goal of journaling is, you can clock it in other people when they're moving from an insecure place. It doesn't mean that you have to forgive them for everything they do or have empathy, complete empathy for them, but it does mean that you can see why they're acting the way they are and know that and wish healing for them. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that's why journaling being the most accessible and probably the most helpful thing for me is why I really wanted to bring this to people. And someone asked me at my first book signing, they were like, can men use this? Is it just for women or whatever? And I was like, yeah, men, stick to the first section, the childhood. Why am I here? Because I'm like, y'all never think about that. Start there. You know what I mean? Because a lot of women get to the dreaming phase. But what I think is unique about the journal is more like the handbook for handling your own life. But the men, you guys need to start in the beginning. Yeah.
But we love sharing the tools. They need the tools.
I love sharing the tools. It's my favorite thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you see more writing and more books in your future?
Truly, yes. You talk about rebranding. You just successfully rebranded. So beautiful. I'm in the middle of a rebrand currently because I recognized I talked a lot in my sort of past content about doing things for external validation and working at Google, realizing I didn't like that so much. So becoming an influencer. But then I realized a lot of the things I was doing as an influencer, I don't like doing that. I don't enjoy that either. And you can make great money from things. It doesn't mean that that has to be your passion. And so I sort of got to this place in the last year where it's what do I enjoy doing? What brings me creative fulfillment? What do I want to do? And that has taken a really long time for me to answer that question, especially because there's a lot of external noise and expectations for what you should or shouldn't be doing. And I found that even though it was never in my intention to be a writer in this traditional publishing way, when I was little, the first thing I said I wanted to be when I grew up was an author. That's what I wanted to be as a child. It sort of recircled and found me again. And so writing, I think the universe was like, girl, you better get in the lab. So absolutely, I'm sort of transitioning, I think, my whole career to be more focused on Substack and more focused on brand consulting and on creator economy insights and consumer insights. So that's what I'm in the middle of transitioning my podcast / Substack Too Smart for This into. And that actually brings me joy. And I don't care that I don't have a single idea how I'm going to make exactly the money from it or the data or whatever. I just feel very clear on that being what I want to do.
Yeah. I love that so much. I think that, one, that's very needed. As somebody who is in the industry, who likes learning about business, who wants those insights, it's very needed.
So needed. There's not enough. And there's not enough Black women. There's not enough young Black women. There's not enough people who I've seen every side of the creator and sort of consumer economy, from being a scout at a VC firm to being an MBA student to running a business to being a creator to working in marketing at a platform. I did not sort of take seriously my experience across those industries. And I also didn't recognize I'm a nerd. I don't want to just be, posting my little outfit of the day every single day, which I do. And I do enjoy because I do love to serve a look. But that to me that's not going to fulfill me long term. It could fulfill somebody else and I would never judge them for that. But I am a nerd. I want to do strategy for you. I want to execute and implement it with you. And I want to have a community of really incredible creative women that I'm around all the time. And I want to build things and see them come to fruition and change my mind and travel and do all these things. And just because I was doing well in X amount of careers before me doesn't mean that I can't still make that happen for myself just because I was good at this, so I should stick with it. Girl, everything's always evolving. So I'm just going to do that too.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, we can always pivot. We can always do something else. I also think with where we are right now as a society and when it comes to business, there's a lot of really good opportunity there because I do think, unfortunately, with the tariffs and with everything that's happening, it will likely disproportionately impact women-owned and also Black woman-owned product businesses.
I mean, like I said, that's sort of why I didn't raise.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I had a perfect pitch deck, revenue business, like that could be my career right now, and having to let go of that identity is tough, but like it is strictly because of economic policy that I'm not there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is my response to that. Mm-hmm. And I'm so lucky that it's a good one. But I mean, I don't want anyone to feel bad for like the terrible people running this country being the reason that your business has to shut down.
No.
You know?
And I think so many people are going to pivot and probably move into the digital space and continue focusing on digital platforms while all of this hopefully gets ironed out and
let us pray,
isn't forever.
Yeah.
And then we will get to a point where it is practical and affordable to develop and create products again. But I think that as times shift, we as innovators shift. And I think we're going to see more and more people kind of switching to more digital platforms.
100%. We absolutely are. And it's already changing too, because something I noticed when I was building shorts out at YouTube is it was more sort of basic content even then. Now I think people are tired. I mean, we saw the NYC influencer discourse and everything. Like people are tired of just the consumerism of it all. I think people are more interested in people with a point of view, with an intellectual strike or something like that. And that's something that, I mean, that's what I care about as a consumer. And that's what I want to provide, like as a creator as well. And I think people don't, like I didn't realize my own point of view was so important. Other people are going to recognize that their point of view is so important too, because it's not, just one thing. You can really do so much with the way the digital economy has been scaling.
Yeah. And I think it's also changed a lot from earlier days in content. I mean, I've been creating content for 10 years.
So long.
And 10 years ago, it was like you kind of had to have a shtick. You had to have a very specific niche. You would have a handle or a blog with like a cutesy name. Mm-hmm. There wasn't really a personal brand because you were hiding behind whatever it is you did. Were you a makeup girl? Were you a fashion girl? Were you a wellness post the smoothie bowl girl? And it was very siloed. Mm-hmm. Versus now, the ways that people engage with creators and want to see creators, they want to know who you are. They don't want a cutesy handle. They want to know what your name is. They want to know what you're about. They want to know what your opinion is on things. And I think having the personal brand piece is more important than it's ever been.
100%. And I'll be the first to say I haven't been good at that because I feel people tell me when they meet me in real life that my personality is way better than what there is online, which I would prefer for it to be that way than the other way around. But I do think that I got so scared of showing my personality because a lot of times as Black women, self-deprecation and sharing your insecurities can be used against you. And I've found operating in, these very elite and mostly white spaces that happens a lot, particularly when you threaten the people who are in the room. And so I've sort of shrunk myself online for a lot of it because I've been like, I don't want this to sort of, I don't want people to think I'm not cool, or I don't want people to see this sort of cringe or whatever. And I guess like I sort of lost that after a while. I was like, I mean, in the past couple of months, honestly, I've just been like, why would I care? I think it was part of turning 25 and then 26. It's like, why would I care about that? Because being yourself is going to be what matters most anyway. And most people who judge you for doing anything would never take a risk on themselves anyway. So, but with all that said, like, I don't feel like my personality came through as much because self-deprecation as a Black woman is a dangerous game to play. And I felt like I had to do that in order to be humble enough for people to still like me. Instead of embracing, you know what, I'm a great person, I'm really smart, I'm really fun, and I'm gonna share that with you from a place of genuinely wanting to share and love myself instead of from a place of, oh, I just wanna be palatable so that I can get enough views, so that I can get enough brand deals, so that I can stay in this game. Because that will work for a little bit, and it did for me. But what the next phase of this is, can I just share myself authentically? That'll still work too, as long as I believe in myself.
Yeah. And I think the more of us that share authentically, are bold, own what we're doing, own who we are, people are going to have no choice but to accept it, get with the program.
Exactly, get with the program.
If we all show up that way, they're going to have to get with it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Totally. And I'm so glad I'm strong enough to do it now, because I wasn't when I was 21 starting on Instagram. But now I'm like, you know what, girl? I'm good.
You got one life.
We got one life. I'm going to have fun with it. And I am having fun with it.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Thank you.
Alexis, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Wait, I had so much fun. Thank you.
Let the people know where they can find you and how they can keep in touch.
Everywhere at Alexis Barber. My Substack and podcast is Too Smart for This. You can find the Too Smart for This journal everywhere. Available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Check your local places. Everybody needs it. Get it for your friend, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, everybody. I'm like, it's so fun. And you can DM me with anything because I love to chat.
Amazing. And we'll make sure all of your information is linked in the show notes.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.